There's been a question that I've been wondering about lately. And the question is, what makes me exist? Not in the biological or the birds, bees sense, more of in the sense of why am I existing? Why, in the not from like a oh I'm so depressed, why am I existing kind of sense. More in the sense of what's really making me exist? Why is it making me exist? Kind of behind all life too. What's really making all of these living things living? In the sense of them occurring in these moments, in this moment of time. And it's kind of a question that's been asked forever, kind of along the lines of what's the meaning of life. But I've kind of ascribed your own meaning into life. So that question, I think the question of why life, why not life, is also the polar opposite of that question. Why life? Why not life? So when we ask why not life, I mean because life can be painful, because life can have sad endings, because life is pain sometimes. So really, why not life? But why life, I think, has so many more reasons. Because life is so much fun. Because life has passion and excitement and love. I think there are more good things in life than there are bad things. And that's why I think life can continue strictly from a pros and cons standpoint. I think the real question we're trying to get to is how does life exist? Again, the opposite of that question, how does not life exist? So when we look at how does not life exist, I think we look at things that don't exist. And in order to figure out why things don't exist, we have to ask why don't those things exist? Because if we look at our own short time frame, it's because we haven't created them yet. If one of my children doesn't exist, it's because I haven't created it yet, correct? Which kind of hints towards a creator. So when we ask ourselves why not life, or how does life not exist, I think the answer to that is because it hasn't been created yet. So if life hasn't been created yet, that means that something hasn't created it. Which, again, I think gives rise to this idea or hint that there is a creator. Now, if there is a creator, we have to ask, why does life need a creator? I don't know. Maybe you can come up with some ideas in the discussion forum below. Why does life need a creator? Why doesn't life need a creator? That's the other side of the question, right? The opposite, the negative. Why doesn't life need a creator? Because life simply happens to be. Well, if life simply happened to be, then kids would simply happen to be in life. There would be nothing that needs to create the children. There would be nothing that needs to dig a hole in the ground in order for there to be a hole in the ground. Yet we know that in order for a hole in the ground, there needs to be some kind of an action being placed upon it. Well, we can take this, and if we spin it out to the very beginning of time, we look at our own sphere of time. And if we look at our own sphere of time, and if we look at the very beginning, the very initial spark, there was something before it that created it. Which means that maybe we need to get rid of time altogether in order to figure out the answer to what makes me exist, what makes life exist. So if we get rid of time altogether and we eliminate it, then we don't have time anymore. We just are left with space. And if we just have space, then we ask ourselves, how do things exist at all? without time? How do things exist without time? Well, same opposite of that question, how do things exist with time? Well, with time, things happen in a sequential order of events. You have your molecules, your elements, your gluons, your plutons, or strings, or whatever. Then more and more comes as a result of that in different combinations throughout time and evolution and choices being made of all these different kinds of molecules and so forth. If there is no time, then all things are simply at once because there's no time. So all of these things just are. So if something just is, that means that it always has been. So if it is something, that means it's always been something. It means it always will be something because there's no time, right? It's just that plane of existence. So that means that things simply are. Simply put, things simply are, right? So something is always something. If you're something, you're something. And you've always been that way, and you will always be that way. So, congratulations. If you're watching this video, you've always been, you always are, and you always will be. Without time. So, since you do have time, you are going to experience changes in this realm. And so, that means that once you leave this realm, you still are, and you will return to the form in which you were prior to this place, except that you've now gone through this place, which means that you are now something different because you've experienced time. And you can relate to time now. You understand how time works. Without really experiencing time, if something always was, is, and will be, and you were to tell, and you were to tell someone, hey, you know, an hour just went by, you'd be going, what? What are you talking about? I've always been. I've always been, and I always will be. What do you mean an hour? It would make no sense to you. But that means that something was able to construct time. Something that always was, is, or will be was able to construct time. How did something that was infinite construct time? Well, I don't know. How does an infinite thing construct time? It's kind of a new question. That one is a thinker. I'm going to have to write that down because I simply don't know, and I will come back hopefully with an answer to that question over a period of time. So for now, I think we'll end this video. I bid you adieu, farewell, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, see you later, au revoir, sayonara, adios, amigos.